let's take a look at some different vocab words that we're going to come across in The King of Spring. The word daffodil here, daffodil, is from the story The Sunset Pond, where he went down past the daffodil bed. Once again we see the word midst, and in the midst of the song was the king. So it's saying like in the middle, in amongst the song. The next words that we see are the words bobbing and swinging. And you may have noticed that there are lots of ing words in these stories. Sitting is another one. And we're going to use the sound ng and ing a lot through the story. When you think of swinging, that's a pretty easy one. You do that all the time. When you think of bobbing, what comes to mind? Well, I can think of my schema about like bobbing apples, or something bobbing up and down in the water. Once again we see the word midst. The band inspected their king in the midst of all the blustering. When we see the word midst 3 times, that tells us that we can learn what the word midst means by seeing it over and over again in different ways. Let's try this word, vestments. He was clinging to his vestments with his hands, but he had a grin on his lips. He was a glad man. He was clinging to his vestments. This is where we're going to need to use the picture to help us. We can see that now that we've figured out the word vestments, you can see he's holding on to something. Well, vestment could mean, if you look at it straight away, that he's holding on to his cloak. But vestments also means the regalia that he's wearing. So the clothing, the royal clothing that he's wearing. Here we see the words blustering, gusting, spring. These 2 words, blustering and gusting, are here to describe what spring is like. Spring is blustering and gusting. This is spring, sang the king, full of unexpected offerings. What do you think of when you think of the word offering? I've got 4 words here we're going to take a little closer look at. We've got 4 words that are all words that you can decode. So, g, r, I, n, grin. Now you try. G, r, I, n, grin. Over here we've got I, n, sp, act. B, l, st, r, I, n. And here we can see that ng makes a sound, and makes a sound, E-R-R. That's an R-controlled vowel. Finally, v-e-st, m-e-n-t, vestments. So, if I take these words, grin, inspect, blustering, and vestments, and I put them straight into a sentence, do you think you can put them in the right place? Here we go. If you look closely at a thing, you it. What do you do? Do you grin it? Do you inspect it? Do you blustering it? Do you vestments it? You inspect it. That's the one that makes most sense. When the wind blows, when the wind is strong, we say it is. Which one do you think? The king's special clothing is called if you have a big smile, you can describe it as your what do you think? Well, we would say when the wind is blowing strong, we say it's blustering. If you have a big smile, you can describe it as your grin. The king's special clothing is called vestments. vestments. And we see that vestments is kind of like, the first part of it sounds like is vest. So it sort of sounds like clothing, doesn't it? That gives you a clue that it's clothing. Let's take a look and see what we notice about this list. First of all, you can see all of these words in this huge list have the sound NG, which is right here. But they're not all equal. They have NG in different ways. So, for instance, these sounds have ANG. Here's another one. Rang and bang. Sang. Sprang. And I think that might be it. There are other words that have different sounds. So, there's song, which has ONG. There's sing-song, which has both ING and ONG. There's stronger. And then we can move over to ones that have UNG, like sprung. Finally, you can see that all the rest of these words have ING. All the ones that are left have ING. Even clinging, which has ING and ING. Springing also has ING, ING. And singing has ING, ING. When we take a look at this list, we may at first be overwhelmed by the amount of different sounds and words and all the things going on, but you can be encouraged to know that all of these are decodable words. Decodable words. Even the long ones like unexpected or vestments, some words that we may not even heard before, summon. You can see that each one of these is a decodable word. Ha, a, n, d, r, e, d, s. Hundreds. This is a great one to break up because you can see it's got a CVC pattern, H-U-N, and then another CVC pattern, E-R-E-D. Over here in unexpected, this is another one that you could easily break up by making each of the sounds. But as the song got stronger, so did the wind. The robins sprang up from where they were sitting, as the daffodils began bobbing and swinging. Then the royal band's hats were picked up by the wind, and up with the insects and robins they began to spin. Not the wind, wept the band. Do you notice something is happening here? Here we see that there's a problem in the story. And when there's a problem in the story, we need to recognize what is that problem, and was there a way that it got solved? So, who were the ones who found the problem? It was the band. How do you know they thought it was a problem? Well, it says here, they say, not the wind. We also see the royal band's hats were picked up by the wind. That shows us that they're not enjoying that and they see it as a problem. When we see a problem in a story, we need to think to ourselves, what was the solution of that problem? How did it get fixed? Like if you had a car and it was broken down, would you just leave it like that? No, you would try and find a solution, a way to get it fixed. So, how does the problem of the wind picking everything up in this story get fixed? Well, this is kind of an interesting story where it kind of doesn't get it solved in the way you'd expect. The king turns around and says, "Oh, this is wonderful, fantastic, fantastic. All the offerings that spring will bring." So, as you go through the story today, be watching for yourself. What was the problem that happened, and how was it solved? Okay, first graders, now it's time for you to go and read The King of Spring by yourself. Happy reading!